It's easy to get stuck reaching for the same familiar fruits and vegetables, even when you know a colorful variety is key. Balance of Nature's fruits and veggie supplements don't replace fruits and vegetables, but it makes it easy to add more variety to what you already eat. With 31 ingredients that are whole fruits and vegetables, switching it up is easy because we've already taken care of the hard part. Go to balanceofnature.com and get a free fiber and spice supplement, plus 35% off your first set as a new preferred customer by using discount code POD.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. Breaking news.
And tonight on the Rita Cosby Show, President Trump making it very clear to Zohran Mamdani, the new New York City mayor-elect, that guess what? The federal government always trumps local. And the federal government is who you got to be nice to, because if you don't be nice to President Trump, well, maybe you won't get the federal funds. And yeah, he is watching Zohran Mamdani, as we all will, after that catastrophic election last night. That's the only way to put it. And I can't wait to hear from all of you, because we were with you last night as the results were breaking, as the news was coming out. And now we will have a new mayor, Zohran Mamdani, 34 years old, the first Muslim New York City mayor, and much of his rhetoric has been deeply concerning and deeply, I think, divisive and troubling. Even his speech last night, his so-called victory speech, was full of vitriol against President Trump. He's already positioning himself that he's going to go up against President Trump. He's the man who's going to go after Trump. And he kept trying to kind of taunt him left and right last night. And he's acting all sort of full of himself after this victory. And it was a victory. Sadly, it's a big loss for New York City. And I can't wait to hear from all of you, your thoughts as to what went wrong with this race. Why were things such a mess in the end that we are left with an extreme Islamist Democratic Socialist who is soon going to be taking over the biggest city in America? And last night, AOC was there. A number of other folks were there, and they're all saying this is part of a big national trend and that Zohran Mamdani is just the beginning. And then you've got the Democratic Socialists of America that are essentially saying we own him, that we're really responsible for getting him there, and he's going to be living by everything we say, and he better abide or else. I mean, this is pretty scary stuff. And if you look at the rhetoric from the DSA, they're the ones who talk about the defund the police, the open up the jails, the hardcore vitriol towards Jews. This is really concerning. And already one of the yeshivas that had this morning a whole bunch of swastikas on it. Suddenly, hours after Zohran Mamdani gets elected, spray painted with swastikas. That is deeply, deeply troubling. Also, the FDNY commissioner of the fire department there of New York, he's Jewish. He said, I'm quitting. So he's leaving early. And also, there are stories tonight about many parents that are taking their kids out of New York City schools, at least moving them to private schools outside of the city. Also, apparently, realtors are being flooded with requests because people are saying they want to move out of New York City. They don't want to live in a New York City under an extreme Islamist like Zohran Mamdani. And there are many Jewish groups today that are really concerned, and also police groups that are very concerned. Remember, he called the NYPD racist. He also said they were anti-queer. He said he's not for defund the police. That's what he claimed in the debate, even though it's everywhere all over the place. And then he said recently they're coming out of the shadows. So buckle up, New York. This is a disaster. And there's a lot of things that went wrong with this election season. And I'll say it straight up. I have serious concerns. Obviously, the primary should have gone differently. There's a ranked choice voting. Cuomo didn't see Mamdani coming in the primary. Otherwise, he would have won that primary. But Mamdani won suddenly with all this money and all this effort. And then in the final election vote, if you look at it, Mamdani a little over 50%, Cuomo 41%, and then Curtis Sliwa 7%. They were clearly splitting the vote. There is no doubt about it, you guys. They were clearly splitting the vote, the anti-Mamdani vote. And obviously, Cuomo had a much bigger margin than Curtis Sliwa. They should have consolidated. I said that, especially after the first debate. I was wondering, would there be a knockout punch in the debate that could change the course of this race? It wasn't. There was a good debate the second time by Cuomo, but it didn't really alter the overall race. I think it helped Cuomo, but I didn't see the numbers whatsoever rise for Curtis. And I think they should have consolidated. It would have helped tremendously for the good of New York City. So I want to hear all your thoughts about that tonight. Meantime, here is President Trump, and he said, Mamdani, you better wake up, because Mamdani, in his speech last night, said, hey, turn the volume up, President Trump, I'm talking to you. And here is President Trump's response just a little bit ago.
At one point he says, turn the volume up.
So hear me, President Trump, when I say this. To get to any of us, you will have to get through all of us.
How do you respond to that? Does that affect anything you're going to do?
It's a very dangerous statement for him to make, actually. And, you talk about danger. I think it's a very dangerous statement for him to make. He has to be a little bit respectful of Washington, because if he's not, he doesn't have a chance of succeeding. And I want to make him succeed. I want to make the city succeed. I don't want to make him succeed. I want to make the city succeed, and we'll see what happens.
Did you see reaching out to him?
I would say he should reach out to us, really. I think he should reach out. Right. I'm here. We'll see what happens, but I would think that it would be more appropriate for him to reach out to us.
By the way, there are a number of Democrats tonight who are saying President Trump should be reaching out to Zohran Mamdani. Are you kidding me? They're angry that President Trump has not reached out to congratulate Zohran Mamdani. Mr. President, I know you love this show. I know you love this station. Don't reach out to Zohran Mamdani. I agree with you. Let him reach out to you, because he is going to need you, and he is going to need federal support, and he is going to need federal funds. I don't think President Trump needs to call up and say, oh, Zohran, you did such a great job saying how you're going to destroy New York City, and I wish you luck. I mean, President Trump loves New York City, and the last thing he wants is this guy at the helm. He's telegraphed it. He said it. He even said at the final days, listen, a vote for Cuomo. Don't vote for somebody else, because that will propel Mamdani. President Trump spoke loud and clear. And if you look at some of the districts, especially you guys around the country, you look at like Staten Island, Cuomo did very, very well. That's a heavily more GOP, of course, borough of the 5 boroughs. So I think people were listening to President Trump, as they should. There is no doubt about it. Here's a little bit of Zohran Mamdani and his so-called victory speech, and he was full of bluster and fervor, and boy, was he cocky. Right away, he starts going after President Trump. This was like a victory speech like I've never seen.
After all, if anyone can show a nation betrayed by Donald Trump how to defeat him, it is the city that gave rise to him. And if there is any way to terrify a despot, it is by dismantling the very conditions that allowed him to accumulate power. This is not only how we stop Trump, it's how we stop the next one. So, Donald Trump, since I know you're watching, I have 4 words for you. Turn the volume up. Taking advantage of their tenants. We will put an end to the culture of corruption that has allowed billionaires like Trump to evade taxation and exploit tax breaks. We will stand alongside unions and expand labor protections because we know, just as Donald Trump does, that when working people have ironclad rights, the bosses who seek to extort them become very small indeed. New York will remain a city of immigrants, a city built by immigrants, powered by immigrants, and as of tonight, led by an immigrant.
And what would a victory speech be for the mayor of the biggest city in America, but to threaten immigration and customs enforcement and other law enforcement? This is one for the record books.
My message to ICE agents and to everyone across this city is that everyone will be held to the same standard of the law. If you violate the law, you must be held accountable. And there is sadly a sense that is growing across this country that certain people are allowed to violate that law, whether they be the president or whether they be the agents themselves. And what New Yorkers are looking for is an era of consistency, an era of clarity, an era of conviction. And that is what we will deliver to them. And I am looking forward to having conversations with Mayor Adams and his administration about the work of the transition to ensure that the handover is a seamless one and that it is one that benefits the shared work we all have to deliver for the people who call the city home.
And then, when somebody wins, usually you say, I want to thank these other people who care about New York. They ran. No. Zohran Mamdani then took a swipe at clearly his nearest competitor, Andrew Cuomo.
Tonight, against all odds, we have grasped it. The future is in our hands. My friends, we have toppled a political dynasty. I wish Andrew Cuomo only the best in private life, but let tonight be the final time I utter his name.
What a nice guy, huh? Doesn't that sound like a guy who really wants to bring the U.S., the city, all Americans together? And then he has the audacity to say, I'm going to represent everybody. Who are you kidding? 1-800-848-9222, 1-800-848-9222. Buckle up, everybody. It's going to be a really rough ride in New York City with now a self-professed Democratic Socialist at the helm. Now that Zohran Mamdani has won the mayor's race. 1-800-848-9222, 1-800-848-9222. And we'll take your calls, everybody, when we come back. Boy, oh boy, I can't wait to hear what you think.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. It's the Rita Cosby Show.
So what went so horribly wrong that now a devout Islamist, a socialist, an extremist is now the new mayor of New York City, is now the 111th mayor of the Big Apple, the biggest city in America. 1-800-848-9222, 1-800-848-9222. Let's go to Robert in Brooklyn on line one. Robert, boy, oh boy, your reaction.
Thanks for taking my call. Well, my reaction is basically Cuomo didn't get his momentum until the second debate. It was too little, too late. Now, I had suggested that letters be sent out to every mailbox in New York showing the screenshots of his horrific postings on Twitter and so on. That never happened. I suggested a group be formed, New Yorkers Against Mamdani, a volunteer group against Mamdani. That never happened. Many of the powers that be made New York into a sacrificial lamb. They thought, well, maybe if New York, he wins in New York, then it'll help them with the midterms or something. Now, in terms of Curtis Sliwa, he was a spoiler. I heard some people trying to justify, well, he's not a spoiler because even if you combine Sliwa and Cuomo, he still wouldn't have enough. That's not true. As you pointed out, if they had worked together, if he did the classy thing like Eric Adams did, he was graciously worked with Cuomo. Instead of attacking Cuomo, he spent most of his time attacking him. If we worked together, then they could have done it. And also, I want to add something. President Trump, the day before the election, had to send out that posting on Truth Social to tell people not to vote for Sliwa. It's a wasted vote. Now, if President Trump did not have to make that posting, it's possible that Mamdani would have had less people come to vote for him. When Trump had to make that posting, all the people in New York who had Trump derangement system, they motivated him extra to come out to vote against Trump. So Sliwa, it was catastrophic what he did. Shame on Sliwa. Now, it's not. But
hang on. But Robert, hold on. Robert, hold on a second. You got a lot in there. First off, I agree with you on the whole sacrificial lamb stuff. That some people think, well, this will be good because he'll be a punching bag, not at the tremendous expense of New York City. And you and I agree on that 100%, because it is catastrophic for New York City. This man is a true believer. I believe he is the most dangerous politician of my lifetime. And if he delivers on what he has pretty blatantly promised he's going to do, it is going to be catastrophic for New York, and it's going to be painful. That's one. Two, you brought up about Trump, and you're right. Maybe it galvanized some of the Trump derangement syndrome folks, but it also gave permission to a lot of Republicans and maybe independents that were on the fence, that were trying to figure out, what should I do? Where should I vote? Should I even stay home or whatever? And I think it gave a clear message that what we all saw in the polls. And look, I'm for maybe polls being sort of wrong, but the polls can't be that wrong, and it was pretty clear that there was a pattern here, that Mamdani had X amount, that Cuomo was rising and I think getting closer and closer to him. And you're right, he got his mojo on a little late. I'm 1,000% in agreement with you on that. He was terrible in the primary, and even in the back half, he finally sort of got his wings under him. But we'll continue after this break, Robert. I want to pick your brain some more.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. Rita Cosby is on. The Rita Cosby Show presents Back the Blue.
And this Back the Blue segment coming from Seattle, Washington, where a woman was rescued from her burning apartment as Seattle police acted swiftly to get her to safety. When officers arrived on the scene, they were doing a welfare check, and they found that the apartment was filled with smoke and a fire was raging inside the house. So upon reaching the 9th floor, they realized the situation was dire when they heard a fire alarm blaring from a unit, and yet they received no response from within. A neighbor informed the officers that the alarm had been sounding for over half an hour. So trusting their instincts that the tenant might be at risk, the officers broke into the apartment door, and immediately they discovered a 47-year-old woman who appeared confused and completely disoriented amid massive smoke in her apartment. So then the officers extracted her, quickly carried her out. The woman, believe it or not, just had minor burns and a little bit of smoke inhalation. Authorities believe that she was rescued just in the nick of time. She received that medical attention and is said to be recovering well. Really incredible. And thank goodness they did that welfare check and were able to extract her almost immediately and followed their instincts. That is the most important thing of all. And of course, we are talking about Zohran Mamdani, who is probably the most extreme politician of my lifetime. And now, sadly, he is mayor-elect of New York City. Wow, wow, wow. How horrible, how frightening, and I think how troubling for this great city of New York that so many of you live in, so many of you visit across the country. It's the crossroads of the world. And now this guy who has said some really horrible, vile things about Jewish people, about Italian people, saying he wants to tax the white neighborhood. And the scary thing is he's really beholden to the Democratic Socialists of America. There are a number of people with ties to the, quote, DSA that are very close to Zohran Mamdani. And even today, as he was unveiling his transition team, some of them are closely aligned with the DSA. So what is the DSA? Well, here is John Solomon, investigative journalist. One of his reporters went to a DSA meeting just a few days ago, the DSA in New York, and listen to what he says are the values of DSA and the control that they plan to have over Zohran Mamdani. This is before he got elected. This is what they were saying. Here's what he's going to do. Here's how we're going to have control and oversee him. And this should send chills down everybody's spine. Take a listen.
You see in very subtle ways the extremist that he really is, that he tried to paint down a little bit in the last few weeks of the election. But I think the most important story for everybody to read today is up on justthenews.com. It was written by my extraordinary colleague, Jerry Dunleavy, great investigative reporter. He got inside the DSA New York group, which is the group that Mamdani belonged to before he started to distance himself. And they had a meeting this weekend that they allowed Jerry to attend, and you can see what they talked about. They are going to force the city of New York to divest from anything that is Jewish. They're going to stop the New York Police Department from training and getting certain capabilities that they don't like. They're going to regulate land sales. You may not be able to sell your piece of land in the future to who you want if the mayor doesn't like that. And then there's a lot of other agendas that are all in there. The purpose of this meeting was to make sure that the group that helped elect Mamdani in the primary and last night will have a seat at the table and will pressure Mamdani until he delivers what he told them privately he would deliver. The wish list looks like something from a Soviet republic, not something from an American capitalist city like New York City. That is the Mamdani you're going to see from this point forward, not the jovial, cool-looking kid from New York that talked a good game. This is a guy that is beholden to the socialists who got him in office, and their values are very different from those that built the Big Apple.
Really, really scary. Do you just hear divest from anything that is Jewish? So if there's any sort of city bonds, city pension funds, city buildings, you think about the list, colleges, a whole bunch of things that could fit this criteria. Then regulate land sales? This sounds like a cult. And then destroy some of the police units. He's certainly going to look, at least if he follows through with what he said and what the DSA is saying, telling a whole bunch of these police units to stand down. You can imagine when there's protests in New York City, he's saying it's free speech and don't send police. So what if they're roaming through Macy's? Remember, we all saw that during the Black Lives Matter protest. Is he going to say, oh, stand down? They're just shopping. Don't worry about that. Remember, it was like thousands of them grabbing stuff and breaking into Macy's. Does he consider that free speech? Maybe. This is going to be a rough ride, guys. And last night at his victory party, who else there but Hassan Piker? This is the influencer. And remember, this is the guy who made the statement in the past where he said that America deserved 9/11. So how nice that he's there celebrating with Zohran Mamdani. And listen to what he says. Here he is. He's at the Mamdani campaign headquarters. And what he says is, you have to hear this. He says that America unfortunately defeated Russia. Unfortunately defeated Russia. I would say that's a good thing. not to Hassan Piker. Listen to this.
Done.
What do you think it means that this guy ran as a socialist and anti-communism didn't work to stop him? That's big.
Yeah, I think we are in the heart of the imperial core. This is the country that defeated the USSR, unfortunately. And the reality of the matter is, there's a lot of antagonism. There's no class consciousness in the United States of America. It's one of the things I try to address every day with my commentary. And I will say this. The conditions have deteriorated so much that everyday Americans, in spite of their lack of class consciousness, are finally arriving at the conclusion that perhaps there is an alternative out there. There is an alternative that focuses on them as opposed to the interests of the billionaires and the millionaires, as opposed to the interests of the capital owners. And, I mean, you can't help but notice that. You can't help but feel at least a little bit of excitement around that.
I go back. That's amazing. This country defeated the USSR, unfortunately, because communism was just so beautiful. You know, why would you ever want to take down the USSR? They're such nice people. Just ask Ukraine. All right, so then listen to this. Mahmoud Khalil was also there. This was like a gathering of, the Dream Team? I mean, this is amazing. So Mahmoud Khalil, who's the head guy of all those protests on college campuses. Remember the guy who they're trying to get, deport him, and they're going back and forth with all the legal stuff. He was at those protests where there were folks handing out the very pro-Hamas flyers right after October 7th. So he's hanging out also at the Zohran Mamdani victory party. So he's thrilled too. So here he is with Mehdi Hassan, who is a TV commentator.
Mahmoud Khalil is here. Mahmoud Khalil is here. And he voted 5 times. He voted illegally 5 times. How do you feel tonight?
I don't know how anyone feels today. Like this campaign proves what politics actually is.
Well, the fact that here he is elated, that's reason enough to be troubled about Zohran Mamdani. The only person missing was Abrego Garcia. Remember the Maryland father, the father of the year, the guy who had all the human trafficking allegations against him and all that stuff? Maybe he was busy and he couldn't pop in. I mean, this is crazy. This is who is now going to be hanging out at Gracie Mansion, along with the folks who you heard John Solomon talking about, because the Democratic Socialists of America, Linda Sarsour, who is an extreme Islamist as well, she is the mentor of Zohran Mamdani, and she already said, we're going to hold him accountable. He's going to have to live up to the standards. And you just heard what John Solomon says. The group is telegraphing what they're going to demand. And by the way, last night, he didn't back away from anything tied to the Democratic Socialists. He didn't even vote on the Democratic line for himself. He publicly came out and said he voted on the, quote, working families line, the Working Families Party's line. So he voted on that because he considers himself a socialist. I mean, he's telegraphing it. He even said it last night. He even said, I'm a young person. I'm proud of that. I'm a Muslim. I'm proud of that. And I'm a democratic socialist. And I'm proud of that. So get ready. When I said earlier, buckle up. This is going to be a really bumpy ride. 1-800-848-9222. 1-800-848-9222. Let's go to Norman on line 3. Go ahead, Norm, your thoughts.
Yes, Rita. Okay. I spent today just basically laying around bed because I was, I'm numb. I'm numb from all this. Listening
by the way,
to
Norm,
Mamdani.
By the way, Norm, I am too. Last night, it was so upsetting to see this individual who I think so many of us genuinely are deeply concerned about is now taking over a city that we all love. It's shocking. It's horrifying. And it's disgusting and it's debilitating. And there's no way to sugarcoat it. It's going to be tough. Yeah,
I did my volunteer work, for Cuomo yesterday. I was on 95th and 96th on West End Avenue. And overall, I would say most of the people that passed me were they were, because they saw my Cuomo sticker and my friend's Cuomo T-shirt. And they were, I would say most of the feedback was positive. But I don't know, going home, there was just I just had a bad feeling in the air. There was some evil mojo out there. I don't know what was going on.
You mean yesterday,
before
the results came out? Is that what you're saying? Before the results came out?
Yeah, before the results came out, and then I got home and I listened to you, and you guys gave me the bad news, and whatever it is. Anyway,
hey Norm. By the way, Norm, I had the bad fortune, if you will, because it broke. The news broke, and you probably heard it in my voice. I announced it to all of you as soon as we learned it. I was the one who had to break in and say, guess what, world? Right. Mamdani has been elected, and it was painful for me to say that.
Yeah, my impressions are just listening to him speech, his acceptance speech. This is not a normal acceptance speech. This is a warrior kind of declaring that he's just conquered some territory. I don't know who the hell would not see that this guy is just like, he's scary, man. He's scary. Is this whole thing, like, basically, all the people who were mentioning, none of them were me. None of them fit my ethnic criteria. He wasn't giving any love. He was giving love to, like, the, whether a Pakistani cab driver and his auntie types, but at no point did he say, and I give love for whatever, typical New Yorker, Jewish New Yorker, or whatever, it was very directed, and it was directed that now is our time, and now, and basically that I have to watch my ass. That's basically the message I got from the way he was speaking. Basically we have to just kind of, just watch our asses, just kind of like, just basically, just behave and stay out of our way, or we're going to hurt you. That's what I got from his speech.
Yeah, by the way, Norm, I agree with you. I got a my way or the highway kind of message,
my way
right?
Or the highway, exactly. And he's got me thinking. I have friends who call your station. They're offering me, already, one's a realtor, and I have friends already that are saying, hey, I have a friend in Texas. He goes, oh, it's nice here in Austin. And another one's telling me, I have a friend who calls the station, and she offered me, how much do I want for my house, and and she can do stuff in Florida, and I'm in this house now 62 years, and I grew up here. I'm a native, I was born in Lenox Hill Hospital, man, and I've lived in Canarsie, Brooklyn my entire life, with the exception of me going to college. And it's like I feel like I have to go now. Because I'm scared. I'm getting older, and I just feel like, that he's just going to release all these, these crazy white kids on me, and he's going to release all these, release all the urban underclass to like want to hurt me. The proletarian, the bourgeois homeowner, and I just.
I'll tell you, Norma. I will tell you, Norma. It is frightening. There are a lot of things that he says that are downright concerning. I also do believe that people got to stay and fight for their rights, and pray that this shall pass, and pray that it doesn't get that bad. But I actually think it's going to be very, very bumpy. And I'm not one of those believers. You probably heard from Robert, who was saying earlier that there are people who are saying, well, the saving grace is if there's a Republican governor. And that's true. A saving grace, a Republican governor comes in and they can find, some reason to potentially get rid of him. You are able to do that, but then it gets into all these other layers and all these other problems and so forth. So there's a lot of number of issues about that. And also, separate than that, that could be a long time. Even if first you have to have a Republican governor, you have Governor Hochul right now. I do agree that it helps to have somebody like an Elise Stefanik or somebody like that, or there's rumors even Bruce Blakeman may get in, who's also extraordinary. So that is something that could be considered a backstop, and that might be the saving grace. But boy, that could be a lot of damage between now and then. And I'm really worried where it's headed with this DSA crowd and what they plan to do on day one. And he could say, listen, I told you guys, because he did. He essentially told us what his plans were. He keeps telegraphing he's a Democratic Socialist. And yet a lot of young people especially voted for the guy. They're like, free, free, free. Sounds good. Free, free, free. Sounds good. But good people still have to stay in the city and fight because New York is worth fighting for. And just doing a good job, and hopefully good people will prevail. But short term, I have the same sense, Norm. It's a pit in everybody's stomach. And I think it's a very dark, sad day for New York today. And I think it's going to be a very bumpy ride. But Norm, if you find a good realtor somewhere else, let me know. I can't tell you guys, I have probably had 10 or 15 realtor friends today of mine saying, you want to come down? You want to come down? And believe me, it's tempting. 1-800-848-9222. But I'm sticking with all of you guys.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. This is the Rita Cosby Show.
So what is ahead for New York under Zohran Mamdani? Let's not forget, even as an assembly member, he wasn't present for 80% of the time. He was an unremarkable assembly member, had 3 bills to his name. You can do that in your sleep if you're in the New York State Assembly. And yet now he is about to become mayor of the biggest city in America, which has a $116 billion budget. There are 35,000 police officers that currently work there. Many of them will probably flee, because why would you ever want to work under a guy who wants to defund the police? 1-800-848-9222. 1-800-848-9222. Let's go to Jay in New Jersey. Jay, I'm also crying for Jack Chitterelli there. Go ahead.
Yeah, Rita, that was quite a bumming, But you're talking about the Hassan Piker and Mahmoud Khalil at the party last night, and I just want to talk about them for a second because, as you mentioned, Hassan Piker, besides for saying last night that it's unfortunate that the U.S. Won the Cold War, he said that America deserved 9/11. Next to him was Mehdi Hassan, who famously posted on Twitter that he make American planes crash again. Then there was Mahmoud Khalil, who, glorifies the October 7th killing of Israelis. And to top it off, you had Jamal Bowman, who denied that there were atrocities on October 7th to begin with. So these are the people that are drunken with glee.
Yeah, you hit it on the head. These are the people celebrating Zohran Mamdani and going to be by his side.
Thanks for listening to The Rita Cosby Show. You can hear The Rita Cosby Show weeknights at 10 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?
It's easy to get stuck reaching for the same familiar fruits and vegetables, even when you know a colorful variety is key. Balance of Nature's fruits and veggie supplements don't replace fruits and vegetables, but it makes it easy to add more variety to what you already eat. With 31 ingredients that are whole fruits and vegetables, Switching it up is easy because we've already taken care of the hard part. Go to balanceofnature.com and get a free fiber and spice supplement, plus 35% off your first set as a new preferred customer by using discount code POD.